have done presentations in the past about living with the spectrum. One of the things that I really like doing, and I found, back to what I was saying earlier about people having children on the spectrum, it's beneficial, and I tell everybody in my group, all the adults, you need to do this at least once in your life, because when you have adults, and say in the 5th grade, and these parents have children on the spectrum, and you walk up there and say, this is my life, this is how I lived it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they just look at you and says, well, they're looking like, okay, where's the autistic part? Is it in his hair, is his nose? Or they're like, no, you don't look autistic to me. I don't see any telltale signs. And you talk about these experiences that you're struggling with, and then they try to translate what I'm saying and what I've done and how I'm living to where Johnny is, you know, and in their child, and how they can help their child get to where I'm at. It's really special to do that, and not too much special for me, but really special for the parents, to see them get that, to make that connection, and says, okay, well, I can bridge this gap, and there's now hope that my child can grow up into something that, you know, can be pretty beneficial to society and live a fairly healthy lifestyle. The key point in that whole process of how successful you're going to be has to do with your degree of resilience to when people misperceiving us, and then empowering themselves to call us all kinds of things, all kinds of value judgments. Your degree of resilience, the degree of support in your life, the people that's in your life, family members and counselors and supportive people that can help you to maintain your sense of yourself, which incorporates being on the spectrum, but it incorporates other things. Being an American, being a Minnesotan, being a white person, being a black person, being a male, and all of the other aspects of our identity. When you maintain that identity, and you're resilient to not internalizing what other people's judgments are, then your prognosis is going to be good. So it's a constant battle, and it has to do with your degree of being resilient. That would help augment that path that'll take you towards success.
Some people might say that you need to adapt entirely to the neurotypical world. Some people might say, no, the world needs to adapt to us. That's fine. If that's what you need, if you need the world to adapt to you, or if you need to fully adapt to the world, that's okay. Me, I try to meet the world halfway. I know what I can adapt to, I've learned what I can't, and I work my best with the limitations I have to function in the world I must live in.
One of my goals is to not be dependent, because throughout high school and middle school I was fully dependent on getting help from professors, my parents, teachers. I don't necessarily want to live that life anymore. I feel like I can't be independent if I still have that aspect in my life. I'm learning every day how to not be dependent on my parents. I love them to death, but I need to start growing up.
When my son is treated, and it might not even happen in my lifetime. When my son gets to a point, or my grandchildren get to a point, if they happen to be on the spectrum, and people say, ooh, they look at the behaviors and say, ooh, you must be on the spectrum. And I see it in this behavior and that behavior and that behavior, and that's cool, and we accept that. That's when we've arrived. But people, when they see the behaviors, they're not processing it in a way in which it's like, yeah, that's autistic behavior, and that's cool. You know, it's just, they just have a different way of processing, a different way. Their neurology is different, and they're acting in a different way. But, you know, that way is just as acceptable as anybody else's way. We're not there yet. I think what we need to know is that you're going to see a difference in the way in which a person processes information, says things, behaves in ways in which they're taking that information and they're giving you novel ways of looking at it. And they're structuring it in a way in which it's going to be helpful to look at it in a different way. We are reminding you, the neurotypical people, that you have to be very resilient in how you see things and do things, and there is just and to hold on to those traditions and be so locked into it has to be this way is going to have to go. You know, we're coming into this world in higher and higher and higher numbers, and there's going to be enough people on the spectrum around us that if you really think that this is the way it has to be, this is what my grandfather did it, and that's the way my father did it, it's going to have to be this way, and you're going to you're going to truly be reminded that that it doesn't have to be that way, and that's the lesson that we are bringing. That's the changes that's coming with the behaviors that we have.
My son, because he has Asperger's, he has worked harder every day of his life just to get through a day of whatever than any kid who doesn't have Asperger's. He has such a strength inside of him.
What can be done to help Asperger's? And I use the term, is neurodiversity. Sorry, neurodiversity. There's a diversity of the way in which we think, and the majority of people will think this way, and a minority of people will think a different way, and it's not better or different or anything. And to anybody who's living on the spectrum has to understand that you're a part of a minority. You're part of thinking about things that's different than other people, but it's not better or worse. It just means that you have to really acknowledge that what you naturally would say and do would counter how most people would want to view you, and to have to stand tall on that and empower yourself to live off of that. It goes back to some of the things I said throughout the interview, and that's what's going to really help, is to understand that we're different, and that's okay, and we're not disabled but differently able.